News Talk 1110, WBT, presents The Bobby DeMuro Show.
Top of the hour here on WBT News Talk 1110 in Charlotte. This is The Bobby DeMuro Show in Hour 2, going live right here from the studios. And tonight, we are looking at mental health in America, and we've had a lot of callers so far talking about mental health in the military, which is a fascinating conversation. I'm looking forward to this next segment. We're going to switch gears just a little bit because we've got a great guest on to discuss something that we have talked about on the show before, and it's a really popular topic too. This is equally popular, and it's bullying, and it's kids bullying each other, and really, under the frame of this show, of this topic, what it all means for kids' mental health when they grow up, when they become older, and if it affects them in any way down the road, looking at bullying. Dom Cincetti, which is a great Italian name, joins me in studio right now for the segment. Dom, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And I got to tell you, I could probably talk to you for 12 minutes about your name. I'm gonna have to call my parents after the show and tell them because they love the Italian name thing. So.
Oh, probably the only kid that had a cheat sheet growing up through school.
That is a beautiful. You probably taught somebody the alphabet with your name.
I probably did.
Well, talk to me now because name aside, I mean, we're talking about something a little more serious than that. Talk to me about this bullying idea. Let's start off with this movie, Bully. A lot of people have heard of it. You know, kind of controversial, I guess, how it's been around. And we had a local girl try to get it seen here. There was a movement to get it seen in Charlotte. Do you think teenagers need to see this sort of stuff? Do they need to understand how bullying affects them with a movie and something like that?
Yes, let me first start off what this movie's about. It's a documentary, a film that follows 5 students in schools in different states. And follows them around and discusses the issue and really points out the bullying issue and how they're being bullied. There's actually a name that really made a lot of headlines too. Her name's Kathy Butler out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, and she created a thing called change.org. To try to get petitions out there to try to get this movie from rated R to PG-13. My issue is that kids do need to see this. I believe it could be very beneficial. It probably show a lot of issues, and even if this doesn't change in the ratings, parents need to step up and take their kids to go see this.
Well, and talk about that with parents. Do we need more kids and more parents to start having a conversation together about bullying? Because when we look at kids bullying, it seems like it kind of stays there, what kids are doing to each other. Do we need to involve parents more?
Oh, 110%, yes. Parents do need to step up. A professor of mine said this very interesting thing in my juvenile justice class. He said that kids that are not really fully developed mentally-wise until the age of 25, so they're still in the learning process. And if the parents aren't educated on this, get educated on the bullying issue. These kids need to learn about it because it's affecting now, and it's a lot more serious issue than it was in the 1970s.
And, you know, we did a show, I mentioned it at the top of the segment, but we did a show on here quite a while ago, several months ago, about bullying, but it was extremely popular then. We had a lot of calls, we had a lot of passionate guests, we had people like you who were clearly fired up about this. Is what is so appealing about this idea? I mean, why does this grab so many people? Why are so many people feel so strongly about it?
You know, I think you're going to get a million different opinions about this. For me personally, why it's more appealing to me is just the simple fact is now it's a little bit more serious out there. Back in the 1970s, a kid gets picked on, they go home, next week they're best friends. Nowadays, you're hearing kids are committing suicide now, which is a very serious issue, and it's unacceptable.
And is it just that we can all identify with being bullied? I mean, I'm the coolest guy in any room that I go into, right? Somebody tell me that, just make me feel good. But I mean, seriously, at some point, every one of us has been bullied. I mean, is that what's at play here?
I think to some extent, probably someone kids share that they have been picked on in some nature.
Talking to Dom Cincetti about bullying and the effect it has on kids down the road right now on WBT. And you mentioned it. You talk about the 1970s. Are kids different nowadays? I mean, we're always changing, we're always evolving, but why have we made so much more about bullying recently? Is it just this escalation? Are kids getting meaner?
Yes, things are a lot more accessible now. Their Facebook, Twitter, everything's more accessible. And what these kids don't realize is that nowadays their words can be as dangerous as a weapon. And a lot of kids don't realize, too, that there's more gratification in helping somebody when they're down than helping them if they're down and to try to get them back up and on the right track. They're not in that mentality. They're different. They're taught very different.
What is it? Who's teaching? I mean, is it parents? Is it just kind of everything in general, kind of a perfect storm in society?
Well, I think it's a bad wagon. I think it's parents, lack of parenting, media. You look at media, every reality show that's out there, they're handling it in conflict and words that these kids are picking up on.
I think that's, we did a reality show on here. We talked reality television and its effect on us, and that's a good observation. That's a good point that there's, reality shows are people behaving badly, essentially. And you can't just blame them. You probably can't just blame parents. And I hate to ask this question because it's kind of loaded, but, I mean, who do we blame? Who do we look at first for causing some of these problems?
It's very hard. I think we all put in to the pot here on this issue, and a lot of it too has to deal with bandwagoning and peer pressure now and cliques. And if you don't fit into this certain clique and there's certain mode as a kid, you're thrown underneath the bus. Well,
what's the solution then? Because when we look at mental health in general tonight, and then specifically with this issue, it seems like it's got to be a multifaceted thing. Is there a simple solution that we can have to do something here?
The sad fact about this issue, I think, Bobby, is that you're never really going to end it. It's like crime. You can't end crime indefinitely. What you can do is create awareness, get stuff started, and it will shrink. Hopefully, and I was talking to somebody earlier before I came on the show, is hopefully you get in there and interject it, because nowadays, like I said, kids are committing suicide, and that's what you really want to stop. You want to let them know that there is a purpose, there's something out there, and you need to send a message to kids that are picking on other kids, that it's unacceptable. It's not cool whatsoever.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate now, because when we did a show, related to this a while ago that I keep alluding to, we had a lot of callers call in and say, hey, this is kids being kids. I got picked on when I grew up. I turned out okay. And I kind of thought about that. At first, my knee-jerk reaction is, it's not that simple. But I thought about it, and, I didn't get picked on a lot when I grew up, but I'm sure there were moments, and I'd like to think that I turned out okay. So is there some of that? I mean, is it just kids being kids to a certain extent?
I don't think it is kids being kids. And the first touchback on the issue of talking about it, it's always important that we talk about this, because the minute we stop talking about it and we lose awareness about this, the minute it becomes a huge issue. But back on the issue again, with kids just being kids, it's not. It's life that they're being taught this. They're being taught that they got to be number one at everything. They got to be the best at sports, schools, athletics, and they're being spread really too thin. And with not being really mature, they're not being considerate on how the other person feels nowadays.
Any insight locally? Do you think it's better or worse locally, or do we just kind of mirror, national averages and national problems?
I think it is a national problem, but I think it's starting to become something locally, where you're starting to see it locally now.
And tell me now, and I like asking this question to people who are passionate about changing something. Fast forward 10 years, if you were in this studio, hopefully WBT still has me around in a decade, but if you were in this studio with me, will we be having the same conversation we are tonight, or is something going to change?
Well, like I said before, I hope we do keep having this conversation. I hope that it's not as drastic as it is right now, and I just, like I said, we gotta do something. We gotta get either organizations started. We gotta get out there and interject this issue. Now's the time. We can't sweep it underneath the rug. If not, we're gonna fail these kids.
And so I guess the last question, the biggest one, is what do we do? I mean, do you give parenting classes? Do you have interventions at school? How do we need to work?
I think it's time that we educate the parents, the kids, the schools, so this way we're all prepared and we all have better awareness.
Dom, I got to tell you, you've got a pretty good radio voice, and I'm kind of nervous you're going to take my job.
There's no, you got job security.
Whew, thank you. That makes me feel good. But seriously, I mean, this is fascinating. This is a good topic. You are passionate about it.
Yes.
I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we are up against a break right here, but fascinating stuff from Dom Cincetti about bullying and what this is doing to our kids. And coming up next, I want to continue this conversation on bullying. I want to talk to you at home about it.